What's going on, everybody? Hello, good evening. It is Saturday, June 13th, and you guys are watching a brand new episode of 50 States of Fear, Minnesota. How was your guys' week? How's your weekend going so far? I know we got some crazy storms going on out there, so please be careful. What's good, everybody? I see some people in the chat that I was just asking about last week. Buka, how you been? Where you been? Good to see you in the chat. Everybody in here, Don, David, all the mods, Tanya, Bear, Kristen. You guys, thank you so much for jumping on tonight. I could probably think of other ways to spend a Saturday night, but I'm so thankful that you guys decided to spend your Saturday night here with me. Everybody, Josie, hello. You guys, who is ready? Happy? What's going on? Who is ready to jump into the state of Minnesota? Only regarding cryptids. We're not going to go any further than that, you guys. Trust me, it's not that impressive. Unless you're an outdoorsman, you like going up north and hanging out in the woods, then this is the place for you. If you guys like to fish, there you go. All right. Let's kind of rock and roll a little bit. Let's kind of get some stuff out of the way. Chat is kicking off, so thank you so much, everybody, for being in here. You guys, we got a personal encounter I'm going to be reading tonight. You guys have seen her in the chat, Nicole. Elephants, thank you so much for that. I just read Emily's comment. This is the best way to spend a Saturday night. Thank you so much for that. Melissa, hello. All right, you guys. So Minnesota it's a crazy state. A lot of people, when they hear the state of Minnesota, they think, oh, it's snows a lot and it gets super cold. Well, that is true. That is 100% truth. But, Minnesota is not called the land of extreme for nothing. We can have extreme heat. We're talking in the 100 degrees in that range with 90% humidity. And then on any given day in the winter, you could have a day where it's 20 to 25 below zero without a wind chill. I've seen wind chills down here as low, or up here, I should say, as low as negative 50 plus with a wind chill. So it gets super cold. Those videos that you see out there where people are running out on their back deck and they're throwing a thing of hot water in the air and it turns to mist or ice or whatever. That's true. That really does happen. So, but yeah, you guys, thanks so much for jumping on in. Let's kind of get right on into it. All right. Let's see what we got here. Now, I'm going to show some pictures, or a picture, I should say, on one account or one on one Dogman encounter. I'm also going to read it. But you guys, there's a thing going on here in Minnesota that a lot of people, is it true? Is it not true? Is it a hoax? Is it a real thing? That's for you guys to decide. Now, I've never seen this, but I'm going to read about the Minnesota Iceman. Now, a lot of people think that, this is real. It was found, but then it turned out to be a hoax from what I understand. So the Minnesota Iceman, it's kind of shrouded in mystery. It's baffled researchers for decades. Now, in the late 60s, a humanoid creature preserved in a block of ice began appearing at shopping malls and carnivals and fairs across the United States, kind of like a sideshow. Okay, so this sideshow, well, it was depicted as Minnesota Iceman, and when it was being viewed, it was typically encased in a refrigerated container, as crowds would gather just to catch a glimpse of this oddity, this exhibit. Now, descriptions portray it as a male human-like figure, approximately 6 feet tall, covered in dark fur-like hair that was about 3 to 4 inches in length. It had oversized hands and feet with thick claws and a flattened nose. One eye appeared to be missing, allegedly knocked out by a bullet wound to the back of the head. Now, the Iceman had changed several hands through its time from being discovered to where it resides now. Now, the exhibitors always claimed that it had been found in a block of ice, uh, ranging from locations from Siberia to Vietnam. Now, there are two cryptozoologists, a guy named Bernard Heuvelmans and Ivan Sanderson, who in 1969, their examination transformed it from a sideshow attraction to a subject of intense scientific interest. They concluded that it could potentially likely be a new primate species. With classifying it as a Homo pongosides, the Smithsonian Institution's primatologist, I should say, John Napier, also examined the Iceman and declaring it was an elaborate hoax made of latex rubber. Now, again, it ranges whether it's an authentic creature or made up, but it's still one of Minnesota's most iconic cryptid mysteries. Now, where this thing is supposedly is in a museum in Austin, Texas, and it is it's supposed to be like the museum of oddities or stuff like that, kind of like a Ripley's Believe It or Not type museum. So, but if you guys have ever get down to Austin, it's like on the historic downtown 6th Street or something like that. It's some weird museum. It's free admission. They got a gift shop, and supposedly the Minnesota Iceman's there. Now, so there's that one. I just want to kind of get that one out of the way. Because I find it's a weird one. And it's not really really, a huge cryptid that you hear a lot of people talk about. Now there is another one. It's called the Hairy Man of Vargas Trails. And in the 1970s, residents near Vargas, Minnesota, reported a towering, hairy figure moving through the woods south of town. Witnesses described the creature as 7 to 8 feet tall, with a piercing scream that echoes across the hills. The sightings in the mid 1970s drew regional news coverage and organized searches. Researchers found large footprints but no conclusive evidence, leaving the Hairy Man as one of Minnesota's, again, enduring cryptid mysteries. Now, you guys, the description that they gave, what is a Bigfoot? There's also Mishy Pishu. Now, we talked about this with, I think it was during Michigan. And this kind of happens to be like, it's called the Great Lynx of Ojibwe tradition. It's a major underwater being in the Great Lakes. Description is given in a feline form, horns, and a toothed back. Lake Superior traditions place it in dangerous deep waters. Now, if you guys listened to the words in the opening, you didn't hear Lake Superior, you heard Gitchagumi. Now, Gitchagumi is the native word for Lake Superior, Gitchagumi. And if you also listen to Gordon Lightfoot, where he sings about the Edmund Fitzgerald, you hear him say Gitchagumi. So that's just a little fun fact right there for people who do not live in Minnesota and were not aware that Lake Superior is also lovingly known by Gitchagumi. Now, some of the stories of the Mishu Pishu controls access to fishing and other creatures. Others say its horns are copper, and that copper and that copper came from it. Now, on the Minnesota page, it belongs mostly natural with Ojibwe Lake Superior country at Grand Portage. And then, you guys, we have one more here before I get into Bigfoot and Dogman and our other aquatic cryptids. You guys, we have Paul Bunyan and Babe, the big blue ox. Northern Minnesota area, but pretty much beloved in Bemidji, Minnesota. Now, Paul Bunyan is a giant lumberjack of the North Woods' tall tales. Babe, the blue ox, is his famous companion. Now, William B. Lafford popularized Paul Bunyan in Red River lumberjack pamphlets in 1914 and 1916. Minnesota Folklore later credited the pair with shaping giant landmarks. Bemidji fixed the pair to Minnesota tourism in 1937. Its winter carnival built giant statues beside Lake Bemidji. Life magazine gave them a national attention in February. By 1938, the carnival drew over 100,000 people. And you guys, that's some of the folklore stories, cryptids, if you will, regarding Minnesota. I'm kind of looking to the chat, kind of say hello to some people. Carl, what's up? You're not late. We just kind of started. Bear, he's talking about the Winnebago. Okay, that's cool. I think I know what you're talking about. And later on, you do come down here and you say, I mean a Wendigo. But everybody now, when we see Bear, we have to refer to the Wendigo as the Winnebago. Sorry, man. That's what happens. That's what happens. Thomas, what's going on? Nice seeing you. Jason, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you as well. All right. Wade, what's up, dude? All right. Let's rock and roll. Let's get into some other stuff here, you guys. Let's see here. JR, what's going on, man? All right. Now, one of the scariest cryptids known to come out of Minnesota is the Wendigo. Now, when we sit here and we talk about the cryptids and, we already talked about the Minnesota Iceman, things like that, because we're not really sure where the origins of the Minnesota Iceman came from. I don't even know why it's called the Minnesota Iceman, but the Wendigo stems directly from native folklore and is deeply woven into Minnesota's culture. Now, this ghoulish creature is believed to stalk the northern forest of Minnesota in search of its next meal. Now, who out there knows what its next meal could potentially be? If you guys are thinking or typing it, yes, you would be correct by saying human flesh. Now, eyewitness reports describe it as an emaciated and towering creature up to 15 feet tall. Its eyes are said to glow eerily against ashen skin that has been tightened against its bones. Fangs protrude from its lipless mouth below its long, snake-like tongue. Now, while the Wendigo legend originated as a cautionary tale among indigenous communities, warning against greed, consumption, and cannibalism, according to the lore, those stranded in the bitter northern winter who resort to eating human flesh would be transformed into the monstrous Wendigo, cursed to wander endlessly with an insatiable hunger. Now, one of the most chilling aspects of the Wendigo folklore is that it can possess humans, turning them into cannibals against their will. Several gruesome cases of murder and cannibalism have been attributed to the Wendigo's possession over the centuries. Now, while the Wendigo may not be a flesh and blood creature, it forcefully represents the danger of unchecked greed and excess through folklore. It reminds us to treat the land and its resources with respect, lest we unleash supernatural consequences. Now, there are still reported sightings today from campers and hikers and hunters who've described hearing a bone chilling scream at night, accompanied by the very noxious stench of decay. Some claim to have seen its towering silhouette stalking the tree line. The Wendigo's enduring presence in Minnesota culture keeps this cautionary tale alive, serving as a warning to those who would attempt to tame the wilds. Now, I had on early in the podcasts, back in the history, early on when we first started, I had a buddy of mine named Charlie who was a stand-up comedian, who I went to last year's Minnesota Bigfoot conference with. He came on, and when he was 17 years old, he was driving down this road called Centerville here in Minnesota. It's a street that I travel often. And as he was coming home, roughly 2:30 in the morning after dropping his girlfriend off, he's in his truck and he sees this form, this thing crossing the road very slowly. He said it was kind of foggy outside and it was cold. And he couldn't quite see it until another car coming the opposite way had his brights on and it lit this thing up. And this is when he saw it. Now his lights again were on, but he wasn't as close to it as this other vehicle was. And as he approached it, he said he could see the breath coming out as it would exhale. Shell, thank you so much for coming in. Great to see you. I wish you could stay longer, but thank you for stopping in. But he said he would see this thing exhale. That's when he noticed the teeth. And it didn't have horns like the one depicted that you guys see a lot when you look up Wendigo and you look up photos. This one did not have horns. And in native folklore, they're not described as having horns. So I'm wondering where that comes from. Now, there'll be people in the chat or in the comments. Yes, they do. They have horns. They have horns. Well, here's the thing. I've heard it firsthand from some natives that, from the Ojibwe tribe, that they don't have horns. So, but he said he saw this thing and its skin. He said its skin looked really, really weird. And it just moved off into a field and then off into the trees. Now, him and I both joked about going and checking out this area because he knows the owners of the property. He said we should go there and look for it. And I'm like, no, man, we're not looking for that. I'll look for other things. I won't look for that. So, yeah, Wade, that's true. But here's the thing: when you see videos, quote unquote, of the Wendigo, they're saying that, it's just representation. It's not an actual video of the Wendigo. And someone put it here right. It got Hollywood. Hollywood hijacked it. Yeah. Yerso says it's right there. That's because a Wendigo is a spirit. I know a Lakota medicine man, he will tell you that a Wendigo does not have horns, and then the lore was hijacked by Hollywood, and that's true. That I mean that's what happens a lot of times, you know. But again, I've heard numerous times that do not have horns. So whenever you bring something up to try to create an image, and you say the Wendigo, everywhere you're going to see 9 out of 10 times you're going to see something with horns. So let's get into a couple of the water monsters. So sightings of strange creatures in the local waters have given traction to legends of monsters lurking in more than one of the 10,000 lakes within here of Minnesota. Now, Minnesota has way more than 10,000 lakes. One of the most famous aquatic cryptids that we have is Pepie. Now, it's believed to dwell in Lake Pepin. Now, this is a wide lake. This lake is 22 miles along. See, the wide 22-mile lake along the Mississippi River has been the source of frequent monster sightings, dated all the way back to Native American tradition. In 1871, a local newspaper said that a sea serpent was in Lake Pepin, and that, can you guys guess it? It was longer than 30 feet, moving with great speed. Now, a century later, two fishermen, so this is in 1968, two fishermen said they saw a large dome-shaped back undulating through the water. There may have been other eyewitness accounts of an enormous serpentine creature surfacing on the lakes over the decades. Some speculate that Pepie is a plesiosaur, while some skeptics, they'll argue that it's most likely something that's misidentified, like maybe a large fish, a swimming deer, or even a floating log. Now, Lake Pepin is not the only site to house or support a lake monster. Lake Vermilion near Tower has a legend dating to the late 1800s of a giant snake-like beast, aptly named Vermi. Lake Minnetonka, Wisconsin's Lake Monona. I'm probably saying that wrong. And even the St. Croix River have their own tales of monsters. Now, while scientific probability of these creatures surviving undetected is very slim, again, it always brings itself back to folklore, where you have one of the most famous water cryptids, Nessie, the Loch Ness monster. Why can't a place, an area, a state known to have 10,000 lakes, actually more, why would they not have their own type of water cryptid? Now, there is another one. I have to find. I actually dropped the page, you guys. Let me get this in here right here. Let's see here. Now you have, again, we've talked about Pressie before, from Lake Superior, otherwise Gitchagumi. It is said that this prehistoric creature has been seen in Lake Superior. It's roughly described as being 75 feet in length, with a horse-like head and sharp, possibly jutting teeth. And a set along its neck, which I'm not understanding. It's proposed to have a large pectoral fins that may have been held close to its body for streamlining, and a tail not dissimilar to that of a whale. So they're saying it's kind of like a whale's tail. There have been sightings all the way back to 1800s. One possible Pressie sighting noted that the creature swam with a snake-like motion. This occurred in 1897 near Duluth, Minnesota, when a man fell overboard on his yacht after hitting a rock. In the water, the man claimed that the creature attacked and attempted to constrict him. So I don't understand how a creature that has the tail of a whale has pectoral fins along the side of its body, and this man says that it tried to constrict him. I don't think it has the body of a snake to where it's going to try to constrict somebody. But guys, those are the tales, are ones that we're looking at with the water cryptids. There's so many things out there, you guys. I honestly believe that I think, when we talk about the water cryptids here in Minnesota, or really in any place of the United States, a lot of times what we're looking at, and Wade can probably attest to this, because he does a lot of fishing. We're looking at like a sturgeon. Probably a sturgeon gets mistaken for so many things because one, it is a large freshwater fish. If you guys have never seen a sturgeon, Google it, and you guys will be amazed at how large this fish actually can get. They say they're actually living dinosaurs, you know, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, there's no way that this is a prehistoric animal, because you guys, this world is revealing itself day by day, and you never know what you're going to see when you turn the next corner. Now we're going to get into some other ones here. We're going to go ahead and get into Dogman. Now, Dogman is a crazy cryptid. The term Dogman is relatively new. Before, a lot of people, will tell you, it was a werewolf. My dad, to the day that he died, believed it was a werewolf. And even today, with the terminology people are using as Dogman, my dad will tell you that it was a werewolf. Okay. So I'm going to read you guys an encounter that happened not very far from my house. Not very far, just a little north. Just a little north of the Twin Cities, in a little town called Forest Lake. Now, this report does not have a date attached to it. I wish it did, but it doesn't. The report goes, me and my kids saw some type of creature at the edge of a field stalking a group of deer today, right before sunset, about 7 or 8 p.m. Now, this tells me that this is probably late spring, early summer time frame. And they say, yes, it was moving its head and ears. It was not a tree stump. We only captured its attention a few times to where it turned and looked directly at us. Now, in the video, which I have seen the video, I cannot find the video now, but it says that you could see it turn its head and look over at us in the video. And then would immediately turn back watching the deer. It wasn't concerned with us at all. It was completely fixated on the deer. I know it's another typical blurry picture when you can barely make out its features. It was large. It was across a large field, And this is the clearest picture our phones could get. But you can clearly see its ears, an eye, the shape of its head, long arms in the front of it, what look like a mane around its neck where the hair is longer and thicker. It does not look like a bear to me, and there aren't any cougars around this area. Well, not that I know of, at least. This was out east of Chisago Lake, Minnesota, where my family friends, where a family friend of ours had a pretty terrifying encounter years back with a creature that walked on two legs, bent backwards, and ran across the road right in front of their vehicle. My friend was so traumatized by this experience, she won't even talk about it. Anyway, it's taught me to keep an open mind about things. We have two encounters not far from this area, actually. Maybe I'll come back and tell those stories as well. Now, you guys, this is the picture. This is the best picture that I could pull from that evidence. So take a look at this picture. I kind of blew it up a little bit. Hopefully you guys will be able to see. This is one of the pictures that they captured. Now, if you guys look, you can definitely see one of the ears. You can see the shoulder. You can see the arms. You can kind of see the snout. And they said this thing was fixated on a herd of deer that was out in the field. And that's like 9 miles from my house, everybody. Roughly 9 miles. Yep. Happy, I don't think I want to see a dogman either. Kristen, you see a cougar? Okay. Who's Larry, you bouncing out? Later, Larry. Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, Allie, it is a blurry picture, and I'm assuming they didn't have the phones that we had today. Now, this was taken a few years ago, way before COVID. But yeah, the video, I wish I could find the video for you guys so I can show it to you. But yeah, it's a crazy video. It's something else. Now, you guys, we're gonna go ahead program exactly. I believe that jumps to mind as well. But you guys, this I've seen the video. I've seen cougars before. They say we don't have cougars this far down up north. Who knows? But I will tell you, the video, you don't see a cougar. You do not see a cougar. And I wish I could find that video. It might be on YouTube. I'm not sure. You know what? Let's see if I can pull it up. I wonder. Let's see here. Let me kind of take a quick gander. And nope. I'm looking. You just see the typical ones. Yeah, I don't see one. All right, guys. So let's get into a personal let's get into a personal account. Now, this account was from a listener who you guys have seen in the chat in the mornings. This is from Nicole. This is her encounter. She goes, I'll give you a little background that led up to my sighting. I currently live, and I will agree with her on this. I will agree with her on this next statement. I currently live in Edina, Minnesota. I lived here in the same apartment building since 2014. I used to live in St. Paul, but I was in a rough neighborhood. My car was getting broken into almost monthly. I never kept anything in my car, and nobody ever stole it. So I'm not sure why I was being targeted. Well, anyway, I saved my money and got myself into a much better zip code. Yes, you did. And I cannot agree with you more than, yeah, it's an absolute garbage dump in St. Paul and in Minneapolis. At the time I moved here, Edina was considered the most affluent city in Minnesota, which it's still pretty affluent. I felt very safe here and decided this was going to be my home until I retired. Now, I used to walk around a certain lake area right there in Edina. I would be down there about 4:30 in the morning, and I'd walk around until about 7 just to get my steps in, usually around 10 miles before I started work. So it is very, very safe there. So, as a matter of fact, I felt so safe that during the summer months, I would go for walks almost every day after work. I worked less than a mile away from my apartment, so I walked to work in the summer. I loved being outside and didn't care whether it was day or night. Like, legit, that's how safe this area was, or it still is. Now, Nicole says that her hobby was writing stories. I've been doing since I was 8 years old. Still, I felt safe in my neighborhood. I would go for walks whenever I needed to work out a problem with one of my stories. I would listen to music and walk until I figured out the story, how the story should proceed. This system worked for me very, very well. The worst thing that ever happened to me was getting surrounded by a flock of turkeys around dusk one evening. She says, I was a little nervous since there was about 16 or 17 of them, but I kept walking and they just walked and gobbled alongside me. Now, you guys, these turkeys, and if it's the area that I think it is, these turkeys have problems. They really, really do. They will walk across the street with no cares at all. I've seen them attack a car. I've seen them go after somebody walking their dog. Yeah, they have issues. So now we're going to go ahead and fast forward to 2017. She got married in February, and her husband and her moved into a bigger apartment in the same building where she had already been living. We were happy until summer rolled around. I'll get a drink of water, you guys. There we go. She said, suddenly, I had someone telling me that I couldn't stay out until all hours at night going for walks in the dark. I couldn't understand where he was coming from, but I had stories to write and dialogue to work out in my head while I walked. We eventually agreed on a solution. He was a little more comfortable with me driving around at night and listening to music in my car. I wasn't thrilled with this arrangement, but I did understand his concern. So, this is the part where you can follow along on Google Maps if you would like. Now, since I don't want to give out my address, as I don't think anybody would want to, we'll just start along Highway 169, which I know that where that is. So if you head south on 169, you can find exit 112. the Mystic Lake Canterbury Road exit, this is where we'll begin. Now, Mystic Lake, you guys, is a huge, huge casino. Canterbury Park is a dog track. So if you take that exit, you'll have Mystic Lake Drive on your left and Canterbury Road on your right. I would always turn left onto Mystic Lake Drive. What I was doing was driving the same route every time I needed to work out details in my latest story. That way, I didn't have to think too much about driving. I could focus on things. I drove this route so often that I could practically do it blindfolded. Now, one thing about this route is that once you get past the Holiday gas station on your right-hand side, you'll come to the end of the streetlights. For most of the drive, all you have at night are your headlights. And I know exactly where you're talking. Also, after midnight on a weekday, I would sometimes be the only vehicle on the road. Unless someone was heading to the casino, there really wasn't much traffic in the middle of the night. Now, the only thing that's different now from what you'll see on Google Maps is that there's currently a stoplight at the intersection of Valley View Road and Mystic Lake Drive. At that intersection, Valley View Road is to the right, and if you turn left, it would become. You know what? I've lived here since '98. I still cannot pronounce that word. Tint Akantu Road. I think that's part of the reservation, which I think it is. Anyway, there's a stoplight there now, but it doesn't show up on Google Maps. This will come into play during my second sighting. During the first sighting, which occurred at this intersection, there was no stoplights, there was no streetlights. It was very dark except for my headlights. This was in April of 2025, and the light was installed sometime in May. So I'm driving down this dark road, listening to music, trying to figure out how to end one of my stories. There was one other car on the road with me, but it was probably about 8 car lengths behind me. So for the most part, I was pretty much by myself, or so I thought. The speed limit on this road is 50 miles an hour in one section and 55 miles per hour in another. But I wasn't in a hurry, so I was probably driving 35 to 40 miles an hour. I wasn't trying to get anywhere. I was just trying to write my book in my head. That's why I didn't have to slam on the brakes when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Nothing to be afraid of, I thought. It was just an animal crossing the road. It was crossing from the passenger side it had just entered the edge of my headlights. So it was as far away from me as it could be while still being illuminated by my lights. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. Now you know why I drive around to work out my story problems. Sometimes I have trouble describing things. Anyway, I assumed it was just a deer. Since nobody was around me, I simply stopped because this thing wasn't running across the road. It was just walking. That's also when I noticed the car about 8 car lengths behind me. I didn't want to stop in the road and get rear-ended if there was another vehicle out there. The car behind me was in the slow lane, so I stopped and waited for the deer to cross, hoping it would get across before the other driver reached it. He seemed to be driving at least the speed limit. Now, don't yell at me for being in the fast lane. Nobody is usually on this road in the middle of the night, probably around midnight or even 1 in the morning. My head had been turned to the right so I could check behind me for cars. As I turned back to watch a deer cross, that's when I realized that this was not a deer. Its legs seemed taller than the front of my car. I drive a mid-sized sedan, and even though this thing was still only in the edge of my headlights, I would estimate that it had been standing directly in front of the hood. Its legs could have extended 4 to 7 inches above the height of the front of my car. Of course, that's only a guess, but I don't think I'm wrong. I just sat there and watched this thing cross the road. For some reason, I didn't look directly at its head. I'm mostly focusing on its legs. They were very tall and very straight. I don't remember the front legs bending at all, but the back legs moved the way a dog's legs moved. The front legs seemed stiff, and that's why I was focused on them. I do remember seeing fur, but the fur on the legs didn't look fluffy. It almost it was almost as though the animal had walked through water before it crossed the road. I glanced at the upper body for a few seconds and saw what I thought was fur, but it didn't seem wet. I never looked directly at its face. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I wasn't afraid exactly, but I wasn't getting a friendly feeling from this thing either, and I wanted to be on my way. I'd never had any kind of sighting before, and honestly, I didn't want one. The other strange thing was that the car behind me never passed while I was stopped. When the creature reached the other side of the road, I started driving again, and about 3 seconds later, the other car passed me. They must have stopped somewhere behind me while all this was happening. I think the creature took 8 to 10 seconds to cross the road. That doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're watching something like that, it's a very long time. It was moving almost in slow motion. I honestly think it could have crossed the entire roadway in less than 3 seconds if it had wanted to. In fact, I started driving before it completely crossed the opposite lane. Looking back, that may not have been the smartest thing to do. I looked at the driver when he passed. He wasn't going very fast at that point, but he never looked at me. He just stared straight ahead and kept driving. I think he had a passenger. I could see inside the vehicle from the lights of their phones. He gave me no indication that he saw what I had seen, but I'm pretty sure he did since he stopped somewhere behind me. So now I had to decide what I was going to do next. My usual route was to continue straight until I reached 140th Street. At that intersection, I would normally turn left and head to Highway 21, which would take me back to Highway 169. Man, I know exactly where you're talking. If I had solved my if I had solved my story problem, I would head north and go home, but still had things to figure it out. If I still had things figured out, I would get back on 169 South and then drive this loop again. It wasn't unusual for me to make this loop 2 or 3 times in one night. Tonight, however, I just wanted to go home. The problem was that if I turned around and drove back the way I came, I might run into that thing again. If I continued my normal route, I also ran the risk of crossing paths with it. There was almost no streetlights in any part of this loop, and if the creature kept walking in a straight line, it would eventually cross Highway 21. I did the only thing that made sense to me at the time. Instead of turning left on 140th Street, I went straight and followed the bright lights to the casino. Bright lights, loud slot machines, people. I wanted to get out of the dark and be around other human beings, even if I didn't speak to them. I spent more than an hour walking around the casino, drinking free soda, and reluctantly losing the $30 I had in my purse. Eventually, I told myself I was being ridiculous and needed to go home. The people, lights, and noise had worked wonders. I could hardly remember why I had been afraid in the first place. That feeling lasted until I realized that once I reached the 140th Street intersection again, I would have to choose a direction. Do I turn right and take the dark road leading to Highway 21, or do I go straight and take the other dark road where there might be a giant dog-looking thing waiting somewhere in the darkness? I sat through 2 complete light cycles without moving. I had to pick a direction, and both choices meant being alone in the dark. I considered calling my husband, but he was probably asleep. Besides, what would I say? Hi, honey, guess what? I lost $30 at the casino, and now I'm afraid to drive home because it's dark and there might be a giant dog on the side of the road. I was pretty sure he wouldn't appreciate being woke up. He'd probably think I'd spent every night at the casino. Whenever I claimed that I was out working on a story, he might even assume I might have been drinking. Nope, that was out of the question. I could not call my husband. I don't drink, I don't gamble. Well, you do because you lost $30. And I didn't want him questioning me honestly or questioning my honesty. So I faced my fear. Eventually, I took a deep breath and turned right towards Highway 21. That's when it occurred to me that I probably would have spent less time in the dark if I had simply just driven back the way I came. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what I told myself. When I got home, my husband was wide awake and sitting in the living room. He seemed worried and immediately asked if I was okay. Apparently, he had called me while I was at the casino, but I never heard his phone over all the noise. That's when I completely broke down and told him everything, including the part about me losing $30. I've always believed in Bigfoot, so I was both thrilled and terrified that I might have had a cryptid encounter. The only thing that I could compare to the size would be to the wolves from the Twilight movies, though maybe a little bit smaller, but still enormous. I tried explaining just how large it was, but my husband, who doesn't believe in Bigfoot, told me I had seen a German Shepherd and I needed to get my eyes checked. I never needed glasses. I do get my eyes checked regularly. The next day after my husband left for work, I called my friend Pam. Now I know Pam, she would believe me. And she believed I saw something, but she didn't think I had seen a giant dog. Instead, she suggested that I had seen a bird. I did not see a bird. She asked me very detailed questions based on my descriptions, especially about the legs, since that's what I was focused on. Now, according to Pam, the legs I described belong to a southern cassowary. Now, you guys, I'm going to tell you right here, right now, this is not part of the story. Cassowaries, those birds, I'm telling you, those birds kill people. I've heard multiple reports within the last 5 or 6 years of these cassowaries taking people out. So, now back to the story. She says, I had to admit that when I looked up a picture of a southern cassowary, the legs did resemble what I saw. I described the front legs as being stiff and seemingly unable to bend, and I described the fur above the legs as shaggy. How she pulled the bird out of the trivia section of her brain, I'll still never know. I mostly let it go because she was trying her best to explain away what I knew I saw. What I didn't mention was that her bird didn't have back legs. My dog-like creature had 4 legs. Her bird only had 2. And a southern cassowaries don't even live in Minnesota. Now, they may live on like a private farm or something like that, but still. Like I said, I lived most of my time in that area. I lived in Lakeville, Minnesota, which is not far from Prior Lake, which is not far from Mystic Lake Casino, and that area that I know very, very well. Now, Nicole says, I think I briefly mentioned in one of your live chats that I had seen something in Prior Lake, but after both my husband and Pam tried to convince me that I hadn't seen what I knew I saw, I started doubting myself. Don't doubt yourself. Even so, deep down, I still believe that I saw a giant dog-like creature. Now, it's 1 year later, April 2026, and this time, I saw it during the daylight. I no longer drive my loop in the middle of the night. I only drive my loop now during the day. That meant more traffic, but it also meant nothing huge is going across the road in front of me. At least that's what I told myself. One day I was driving the same road in broad daylight when I happened to glance to my left. At first, I thought I was slowing down because a police officer on the opposite side of the road had his flashing lights. It was strange because he didn't have anybody pulled over. The officer was sitting in his vehicle, and something farther out caught my attention. In broad daylight, the traffic passing by, there was a massive dog sitting in a grassy area about 40 feet off the road. It wasn't really a field, the grass had been mowed, so it was fairly short. The officer was looking at it. I was looking at it. And I would almost bet my life on it the dog was looking at me. I felt like our eyes locked. That lasted until someone behind me started relentlessly honking their horn. I hadn't even realized that I had come to a complete stop. I started moving again, but I swear the creature continued looking at me as I drove away. Now I know what I really saw that night a year ago. Even though it wasn't as close to me this time, I would estimate that it was the size of 4 German shepherds combined into one big dog. Even the officer never took his eyes off of it while all the people, while all the honking was going on. That's proof enough for me that I saw exactly what I think I saw. I only hope my riding doesn't suffer. Now, I won't even drive that loop during the day. And that's our very own Nicole. Nicole, that is crazy. And that fact that you're able to paint such a vivid picture of the location. I know exactly every single place, every turn in the road, every stop that you made. I know exactly where that is. You know, so I'm sorry that I hope you're still married. Um, I think it's kind of crappy, and I mean I know I'm trying to overstep my bounds or anything like that, but I know what you're talking about when you have that one person that one person you hope has your back, and that when you share something like that, they're not going to try to dismiss it. But I've been in those shoes. I've had my encounter dismissed, trying to make me think that I saw something else than what I saw. So, I mean, I know dogmen are here in Minnesota. So, now, do you remember the police agency that had it pulled over? That had pulled over. So let me do some real quick thanks, and I'll do it again at the end of the show. But Elephant Foots, thank you for the $5. Grease Bag, thank you so much for the $2 sticker. Deb, thank you for the 1 gifted membership. And Phyllis, thank you for the 1 gifted membership. I appreciate that, you guys. Thank you so much. What's up, Tim? It might have been a police officer. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I think a lot of that area over there is reservation. 100%. So, all right, let's get into some more dogman encounters. I'm going to read something from this one page about the Minnesota Dogman. Because you guys, believe it or not, we've had multiple Dogman sightings here in Minnesota. Werewolves may be a creature of myth, but Minnesota has its own canine shrouded in mystery, the Dogman. While less renowned as the local cryptids, Josie, thank you so much. Sebastian Katana wants to buy me a pizza. Awesome. I like pizza, but not all the time. Like, I'll have it every once in a while. So now, while it's less renowned than most of the local cryptids, sightings of this wolf-like creature have been reported across northern Minnesota. It is often described as possessing a muscular human form, dense fur, pointed ears, and piercing eyes that seem to glow. Now, they say the sizes range between 7 to 9 feet tall while standing upright. Several eyewitnesses attribute unnatural speed, strength, and stealth of the creature. Now, you guys, we have read so many stories. We have read so many stories that these things are stealthy. You'll see them 1 minute, and then the next minute, they're almost right on top of you. So, now encounters with the Minnesota Dogmen typically involve feelings of immense fear or unease. One man describing seeing it while hunting near Long Prairie in the early mornings, only for the creature to stare back at him after scaring off deer it was apparently stalking. Local Ojibwe tribes warn children that the Dogman stalks the forest, capable of moving silently even in snow. Its origins remain unknown. Some say it is a primal forest spirit. Others believe it could be a surviving Ice Age canine species. Cryptozoologists speculate that it may share links to other wolf-like cryptids sighted in states like Michigan and Wisconsin. Now, while Minnesota Dogman has never moved beyond folklore into scientific acceptance, its presence in oral traditions speak to mankind's primal fear of the unknown. It embodies the danger and the wilderness or the wildness of nature, reminding us that there are forces beyond our control or understanding, even in our civilized world, even in our own backyard. Now let's get into some of these Dogman encounters here in Minnesota. Ottertail County, Minnesota. Okay. I'll start off by saying that I have never believed in any of these sort of creatures, but I saw something in early 2009, so 2009, that really disturbed me and is making me change my mind. I was not under the influence of any drugs. I have better than average eyesight, and the lighting was nearly sunset, but I was still able to see clearly. So I'll get this underway and explain my story, and maybe someone can shed some light. I live in Fergus Falls, which I know where Fergus Falls is. I've been there before. It is in west central Minnesota, about an hour's drive from Fargo, North Dakota. My mother in law lives out in the country, about 3 to 4 miles outside of Fergus Falls. And I was staying there while my wife and mother went shopping in town. They called me and asked if I wanted to go to a 7 p.m. movie. So I left the house around 6:30, 6:45 to meet him at the theater. About 2 miles from their house on a county road known as the Wendell Road along the uh, Mestinka River, I saw three white-tailed deer. Two of the deer were rather small, probably just yearlings, and a large doe, who I assumed was their mother. Now, me being an avid hunter, lover of wildlife, and future wildlife biologist, I stopped to look at the deer. I should also mention that I hunt in the area and have spent my whole life in the Fergus Falls area. The deer were the deer were following a small creek bed, which is in fact the Mestinka River. So there were hardly any trees except for one. Maybe because I didn't see it there because of the tree, but I just noticed something crouching behind the tree on my side of the road, looking at the deer and, to my belief, hunting them. It just sat there looking at the deer, taking no notice of me, even though I was in my truck no more than 40 yards away with a clear view, with nothing obstructing my view of it. It had one hand on the tree that it was bracing itself with. That struck me as shocking, in the fact that it seemed to have been a two-legged creature and not a four-legged one. Its hands appeared to have opposable thumbs and were rather slender and were long, very unlike a wolf's. The creature looked as though if it stood up, it would be well over 7 feet tall, with a protruding muzzle, broad shoulders, a slender waist, thick, muscular thighs. And being as there was snow on the ground, I couldn't see its feet. He was deep, dark brown in color throughout the body. After several seconds of looking at the creature in shock, the deer ran off. Then something amazing happened. I would not call this amazing, you guys, but he said something amazing happened. It looked right at me, as though blaming me for losing its meal. He just sat there looking at me, not blinking, not moving. This scared the crap out of me, so I hit the gas pedal and drove off. It was very dark after the movie, so I didn't much feel like trudging through the 3.5 feet of snow, with the possibility of a monster lurking in the area, who is currently looking for a meal that I scared off. So at about 10 a.m., I went back out in that area and walked down to the tree. Under the tree, there was no snow, so there were no tracks that I could see. But leading up to the tree, there were 3 tracks leading in from my grandmother-in-law's field, which was hard black dirt. And if you know about Minnesota fields, what they look like in the late winter and early spring, you can't make anything out in the dirt. The tracks I did find were almost 6 to 7 inches in length. They were clearly canine prints, with the exception of 4 toe-looking marks in the snow. Well, that's the story. If you have any information, let me know. All right. We're going to go and do something like I normally like to do. You guys, we're going to talk about some folks that really, really pull through for the channel and for you guys when they donate items for the giveaway. Now, you guys, next month is going to be another giveaway. It's going to be the July membership giveaway. So if you guys become a member of the channel in the month of July, or you are already a member, then your guys' name is already put into the drawing for next month's membership giveaway. Now, that giveaway is going to be from the 1st of July till the end of the month, and then the very first day of August, depending on what day it is. If it's a weekday, it might hold off until the weekend, first weekend of August. But you guys, let's give a big shout out to Ally Coffee Roasters out of Cadillac, Michigan. Mitten Man Aaron, if he's in the chat, he'll always come in and say hi every once in a while. Him and his wife, they own this coffee roasters. You guys, I wasn't a big coffee drinker until I tasted their coffee, and it's fantastic. So head on over to www.allycoffee.com. That's OWLEYE coffee.com. And if you guys do decide to purchase anything, which I hope you do, let's show them some love. Use the promo code DANO at checkout. That's DANO, all capital letters, for 15% off of your order. Next, I met these guys at the Arkansas Cryptid Fest last week. The Rustic Supply Company. Check them out on Etsy, the Rustic Supply Co. You guys, they do metalworking. They have amazing items. Check out their catalog at therusticsupplycompany.com or their Etsy shop. Go to Etsy, do a search, look at the Rustic Supply Co. You guys will not be disappointed. And Partly Cloudy Collectives, check them out as well. A lot of handmade, handcrafted items. Show them some love. Partlycloudycollective.com. You can reach out to them at partlycloudycollectives at gmail.com, or you can check them up on Facebook. Just got to search Partly Cloudy Collective and see what they got for you guys. All right. Let's get back to the show. All right. Let's bring up another Dogman encounter here. I just guess I could hit the back button here. This next one is St. Louis County, Minnesota. This was back in 1999. Back to life. Back to... Y'all know that song. First off, I'd like to keep my name confidential, which I completely understand. Just for the fact that this happened at an Air Force base. I don't know who reads this stuff. This happened sometime in September of 99. I forgot the exact date. It was early in the month, though, maybe between 2 and 3 a.m. I'm a security forces airman working third shift on base patrol. Now, mind you, this is an Air National Guard base that I work at full time. It's on the north side of Duluth, next to the International Airport. North to northeast is nothing but large wooded areas, forest areas. Third shift is on a pretty. Third shift on the base is pretty boring. Now, I've worked this shift before. It's 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And as full-timers work a skeleton crew, usually 5 to 6 of us on shift. That's normal. I was in the patrol truck doing my usual rounds, checking doors, fence lines. Late at night on the north side of the base was usually creepy enough when patrolling by yourself. Anyway, I was on this road driving towards our baseball field when my headlights caught a pair of eyes reflecting back at me. They were almost eye level with me, and I was sitting in a Ford F-150. Around this time, a few of the guys had been seeing this huge buck around the property, like a 16-pointer or something around that size. That's a big buck. I was about 80 yards or so when I saw these eyes reflecting back at me. So I'm thinking, it was this big deer. I got to see this thing. So I hit the gas and started speeding towards the field. This is where it all happened so fast. It's almost hard to explain. There was a little slope behind the baseball field. It sloped down about 12 to 15 feet into the brush line. The brush went about 30 feet, then turned into a thick tree line. The brush was probably armpit high to me and pretty tough to traverse through because it was so thick. As I turned onto the baseball field and turned the truck towards the thing, I just caught the rear end of the thing leaping down the slope below the line of sight of the headlights. This thing was no more than 20 feet ahead of me when it leapt. All I got a look at was the back end of this thing, and it was big. The best I can do to describe is say that it was a wolf-type dog-looking thing. It had a long tail, no longer than 2 feet. Its hind legs looked exactly like you'd see a dog would have, with the back paws, but the paws were huge. They were bigger than my hands for sure. The hair or fur was wavy, yet matted and thick. The color was blondish or very light brown. I didn't notice any gray in it, but this all happened within about 2 to 3 seconds. I sat in my patrol truck for a couple of seconds, confused and thinking, I know what I saw, but it couldn't have been what I had just saw. So I hopped out with my flashlight, my M16, and I walked to the edge of the slope. All I heard was this thing running through the woods in front of me, heading in a northwest direction. And this thing sounded like a moose charging through the trees. It made a lot of noise. That's when I started to get really scared, thinking, if this is some sort of wolf or whatever it could be, my M16 is not going to do anything to this animal. So I jumped back to my patrol truck as fast as I could and headed back to headquarters. I never told any of the members about this for fear of ridicule or being called crazy. There is no way I misidentified this thing. I am a trained observer, an avid hunter, and have worked with animal rehabilitations with the Minnesota DNR in the past. I know my animals and I know the North Woods extremely well. I saw exactly what I saw, and that was the back end of a large wolf dog looking thing that basically had its eyes level with mine while I was sitting in my truck. The back end was definitely much larger than any of the largest deer or black bear that I have ever seen. The points I remember the clearest were the tail and the back paws, as well as the texture and color of the hair or fur. This is the story. This is my story. I've never told anyone in fear of ridicule. I swear to be true. I love that one. Hey, Lair Bear, have a good night, buddy. Oh, excuse me. Buka, thanks for the $5. And Deb, again, thank you so much for the gifted membership. So here's the thing, you guys. The picture that I showed of what was close to my house is pretty much the same color as this guy described what he saw up in Duluth. Now, Duluth is about 2 hours away from me. About 2 hours or so, maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes. But who knows? All right. After listening to these encounters, mine was boring in comparison. I saw one walk across a cut line. That's not boring. I love things like that. All right. How long have we been on tonight? We're getting ready to hit an hour, 20 minutes. All right, cool. All right, you guys, we're going to finish these up. Then we'll talk about a couple of Bigfoot encounters. This one happened in Aitkin County, Minnesota. I'm a city girl, so I don't know a thing about tracks. Last winter, I was at the cabin and saw prints in the snow next to a small creek near the frozen pond. The prints were a big circle with 3 smaller circles above the big one. I wear size 7 shoe, but wear size 8 boot to provide room for extra socks. The print was bigger than my boot, which means 11 inches long. I went home and looked on the internet to see what kind of print it was. After doing that, I decided it must have been a wolf. After I heard about Dogman a month or so ago, I checked the Bemidji Wolf Center website to discover that wolf prints only get around 5.5 feet long. Since I don't know anything about tracks, I couldn't tell if it was a 4 or 2-legged creature that had left the tracks. Of course, at this time, the 2-legged possibility was the furthest thing from my mind. I told my friend about the tracks and that I thought it may have been made by a dogman. Although he was my friend, he said he didn't believe in dogman. He did say that a guy he went to school with was with back in the 80s, with whom with whom my friend played music at the time, said that he had seen the devil in the woods when he went up north hunting. He said it had red eyes, stood on 2 legs, had a dog head, was huge, and stared at him, and then jumped across a gully like it was nothing. One thing I forgot to mention, that I had a tough little Lhasa Apso with me when I saw those tracks. He is usually a fearless dog, but when he would not leave my side all week after that, I couldn't even get him to go outside the cabin alone to go to the bathroom. Also, my 300-pound brother was afraid to be in the cabin and won't go up there alone. He doesn't believe in Dogman or Bigfoot, but something about the place creeps him out. I've gone up there alone, but rarely go outside after dark. Once in a while, I find myself finishing up in the sauna. After dark, I rush back into the cabin, which is only about 100 yards away. I use an indoor bucket instead of the outhouse in the winter when the water is turned off. I'm going to make sure that I put curtains up on all of the windows now that I've heard the shows. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not using a bucket or an outhouse. It's time to upgrade, you guys. Time to upgrade, get some indoor plumbing. And here's the last Dogman encounter from Minnesota. Summer of 97, I was 13 years old. I was rollerblading from a part of a town called Old Cottage Grove. Know where that is. I guess I should start off by saying that the city where this happened was a suburb of St. Paul called Cottage Grove. It was around 9:30 p.m. and I was rollerblading back from a girlfriend's house with a friend. We were just coming around the bend in the road that went past a farm that I believe at the time was called Green Acre Farm. I'm not exactly sure what it was they did at that farm, but I do know for sure at the time there was always cattle of all different ages and sizes and genders being which brings me to the conclusion that it may have just I was just at the right place at the wrong time. As I was rounding the bend in the road, I started coming up the hill. I felt a very strong sense of fear. It was like my body was telling me to get the heck out of there, yet I couldn't figure out why. I could tell you this much, though. For the first and only time in my life, I felt like I was no longer at the top of the food chain. Right when I started to pick up the pace to get out of there is when I heard the sound that came from the fenced in cattle farm to my left, maybe 15 to 20 yards behind me. It sounded like nails grabbing a pole or fence, and it sounded like what a dog's paw and claws would sound like when walking or running on tiled floor, except this sounded like a quick leap onto the street pavement. As I turned around and looked, there stood what looked to be a wiry gray-haired werewolf. It was like time had stopped. There was a street light at the time in the woods, maybe 5 feet behind it. So all I could make out was its silhouette. It was about 7 feet tall, with the head of what looked like a German Shepherd, with huge ears and a huge muzzle. I could see this thing was built like a bodybuilder. It stood bipedal like a man, not like what some folks say, with these things having dog-like limbs. It had long, slim hands with black nails on its fingertips. It had a slim waist, but the upper body was muscular beyond belief. This thing had always stuck with me beside the point of seeing this thing in the first place was that its head was turning from side to side, snout up in the air. The one thing that really stuck out was that out of place to me was that I could see this thing breathing as though it was winter. But mind you, this was at the end of June, almost July. It looked as though it was smelling my scent, but that's just what it looked like. Now, I'm not positive on that. Before I knew it, I was yelling to my friend to get the heck out of there and not look back. But it's almost as though he was in another world because he didn't seem to feel, let alone see, what I had just experienced. I'm somewhat of an artist and drew a picture of what I saw, which was a werewolf. Fast forward 17 years later, and I still hadn't told anyone about this encounter. That is until my oldest brother and I were trading stories one summer evening, and it just sort of came up. Like we were talking about Bigfoot. Now, mind you, my brother's a firm believer in this animal. So I said, the heck with it, and started telling him about what had happened to me, going to the point of pulling out the original drawing I had drew. To my surprise, he didn't look at me or laugh at me like I was positive that he would. Instead, he started asking me if I'd ever heard of the Michigan Dogman or seen anything, on which I replied no. He then pulled up an image on the internet of a sketch that an eyewitness had drawn, and I swear to you, it sent shivers down my back because it not only looked like my drawing, it looked exactly like the thing I saw that night, that summer in 1997 in Old Cottage Grove, Minnesota. To this day, I still find myself trying to wrap my head around what I had saw. I'm 33 years old now, yet still find myself trying to rationalize what I had crossed paths with that night. Okay, so you guys, let's talk about that real quick. Let's kind of unravel that. This guy, 13 years old, on rollerblades, and this thing comes barreling out of this cattle field, climbing over a fence, jumping over a fence, then getting on the road and stopping. And what he believes, what's up, Wendell? What he believes, it's sniffing the air. It's looking for his scent. He yells to his friend, "Get out of there." But his friend doesn't see or didn't encounter what he saw. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I think that, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that this was a natural dog man? Or do you think it's maybe, I don't know, an asset? I don't know. Susan, good evening. I am a first-time listener from central Minnesota. Awesome. I'm here in we'll put it this way. I'm between Forest Lake, Minnesota, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm in that corridor. So, but yeah, welcome. I'm glad. If you guys are new to the channel, new to the chat, drop a 1 in the comments. Let us know where you guys are listening from or watching from. And if you guys haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Just 1 click subscribe. If you want to go on a little more, expend a little more energy and hit those notifications, then you guys know when I go live. And just guys, give you a rundown on what the schedule is for the channel. One, my name's Dano. I'm the host of the Cryptid podcast, and we go live every Monday through Friday at 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we do live streams in the morning. We just talk about whatever. Cryptids, heck, one day we had like a 45-minute talk about wrestling, pro wrestling. So every Wednesday and Friday, we drop new content at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time here on YouTube, but at 6 a.m. on Spotify. Now, why do I drop at 6 on Spotify and 2 p.m. here on YouTube? It's all about analytics. Okay. Also, I do this. I do a live stream every Saturday, and this is the 50 States of Fear series that I'm doing, and we talk about what cryptids and what things are going on in the states. What state? So right now we're talking about Minnesota. Who knows what next state we're talking about, because I'm going alphabetical order and I just don't have it right up. I usually had a list. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Wow, 5 gifted memberships, Alphabets. Thank you so much for that. I truly appreciate that. So we got a new sub from the UK, Swords and Shields. I love it. I love my UK, my cousins from across the pond. I say thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate that. Guys, we're not done. I'm not ending the show yet because we still haven't talked about Bigfoot. And also, you guys, we got some people in the chat that I think you guys need to be made aware of. Mandy, Texas RN, she has a TikTok presence. Check her out. You guys will not be disappointed. We've got Ash's Antics. Now, Ash's Antics, he's got 2 different podcasts. Ash's Antics, which that's his gaming YouTube channel. Check it out, you guys. You will not be disappointed. He just hit 10,000 subs. Congratulations, brother. But he also has another one called the Boom Boom Room. If you guys want to find that, you got to look up on YouTube the Boom Boom Room 777. If you're able to drop that link, Ashes, go ahead and drop the link to your channels. We've also got Boone County Cryptids in here. That's another one of my dudes. He has a really good channel. Check him out. Again, it's the same thing as what I'm doing. It's just, he puts a different twist on it, which is great. If Franklin is in here, I didn't see him, but if he's in here, check him out. He's got a channel called Get Folked Up. He is a musician. He loves folk music and things like that. And he is doing it's a really new channel, you guys, but let's get him up there and some subs so he can do more and more with the channel. I think his channel is going to be great. I think he's going to do great things in his channel. And then Wendell, if you're still in here, Wendell has a good channel. Wendell, where you at, buddy? Check out Wendell's channel. And who am I? Am I missing anybody else? All right. All right, guys. So that is it for Dogman. Let's get over to here to the big guy. Let's check out the big guy. Now, Bigfoot sightings in Minnesota is not uncommon. Okay. Now, when you think about Bigfoot, a lot of times people, you'll think of Oregon, Washington State, Most recently, Ohio all of a sudden has jumped up onto the picture, along with Canada. So there's a lot of things that Bigfoot through their migratory things going. You guys, we've had so many flaps go on in this year alone. I think within a 2-month time frame, there was something like 25 or 30 reported sightings. So yeah, I'll definitely try to get Matt on. I do listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. Sasquatch Chronicle was the first place that I shared my encounter. I had a sighting when I was 12. I had another sighting when I was 19. My first encounter, I realized, was around 1978. And my last encounter was in 2025. So I've had a total of 6 encounters, 2 of which were sightings. And I went to Sasquatch Chronicles, was on with Wes Germer, was also on with Tony Merkel from the Confessionals. There's Wendell's channel. Check out Wendell right there. Let's see here. There's a channel called BBR by Deborah Hatswell here in the UK, with plenty of cryptid sightings here in the UK. Hey, Sword and Shields, if you could do me a favor, if you could shoot me an email, the cryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Just shoot me a real quick email with that channel name, and I'll look it up and definitely check them out. I'm always game for getting new stories and things from around the world. Okay, let's see here. I just wanted to thank you all for making tonight so much fun. I've been home recovering from surgery. Nicole, we're going to pray for you. And what episode was I on? Are you talking about what episode on Sasquatch Chronicles? I think it was like 464 or something like that, like early on. He's like up in the 1100s now, I think. But I remember that it was a membership. You had to be a member in order to listen to my episode. So I don't know if that's still the same thing. But yeah. All right, guys, let's talk about Bigfoot. Now, one of the earliest documented encounters occurred near the Ojibwe reservation of White Earth in 1908. 2 berry pickers claimed to have seen or have been chased from the forest by a wild man whose footprints were measured to be 16 inches long. In the 60s, there were multiple visual sightings and vocalizations reported near the Vermilion River, northeast of Duluth. In 1976, an 8-year-old boy saw a large black Bigfoot emerge from the forest near Strawberry Lake, shaking the ground as it walked. Now, some of the most dramatic events happened recently near the Kettle River in Carleton County. Starting in 2008, the Aho family described several encounters with a 9-foot tall Bigfoot on their rural property, including a daylight sighting by multiple witnesses. Their reports attract the attention of the television show Finding Bigfoot, which held a town hall meeting in 2011 that drew scores of witnesses. So, you guys, there are so many different types of researchers and skeptics and things like that. Um, do we truly know what these things are? We don't. But those who have seen them, have experienced them, have encountered them, yeah, we're not believers, we're knowers, we're experiencers. Um, and Bigfoot is my number one, my favorite cryptid, followed by the Kushtaka. And now we're gonna read a few reports because we are kind of getting up there, almost 2 hours, like 20 minutes away from 2 hours. So let's look at Minnesota. Now they're saying there's only on this website, the BFRO website, there's only 81 reported sightings of Bigfoot. But there is a recent one here. Recent is 2 years. May 2024, Pine County. Expedition report for incidents on spring 2024 Minnesota trip. So this tells me that they ran an excursion, an expedition out there. Of course, nearest town has been redacted. Of course, nearest road has been redacted. So the BFRO organizes field expeditions in various Bigfoot areas throughout the United States. Throughout the areas of the United States and Canada each year, and has been doing so for the last 20 years. These Bigfoot areas are zones where Bigfoot encounters, sightings, sounds, tracks have been found or occurred over the years. The organizers on the 2024 Minnesota Spring Expedition asked participants to take notes on everything relevant as to what they were observing, along with timestamps. Now, this one individual, Bob Barheit, he took the group to an area where the distinct sounds of Bigfoots were heard on prior trips, so he expected activity on this trip. There was more than he expected. And come on. Okay, that's kind of a okay, two significant events. First, a conical shape was spotted on Doreen's thermal. Now, you guys, there are different. Let's see here. There's here's the attendees: Robert B, BFRO investigator and host; Mark D, BFRO investigator, and then their guests: Jeff, Nicole, Carol, Phil, Sandy, Deanna, Annie, Ben, Mary, Rick, Lillian, Dennis, Helen, Randall, Doreen, and Kathy. So on Doreen's thermal peaking above, they spotted on Doreen's thermal peaking above the tall weeds in the backwater just off the road. They cannot make a positive ID, but there was definitely something in the area around 20 to 30 yards. It was happening on May 9th. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. I'm not even going to read this. This thing is so heavily redacted, it's not even funny. Not even going to waste my time or your guys' time. I'm going to read some better ones here. Okay, so let's talk about some areas that are close to me. Washington County, there's a Bigfoot sighting. 1972 while bow hunting near Big Marine Lake, which I know where this is, about 2 miles west of Corey Swamp. The person said that I was bow hunting, just sitting in my stand looking around, and it walked about 75 yards away. It was a long time ago. I did not know about Bigfoot at the time. Told my partners I'd seen a swish bear because the way it swung its arms and hands. It just walked on by. That's what he observed. I mean, that's plain and to the plain and right to the point. That's what he saw. Let's see here. Anoka County. There we go. In Anoka County, 1988. Now I know about this encounter. Doug Hycheck talked to me about this one. This is I know exactly where this location is. The nearest town is Circle Pines. The nearest road is Woodland Road. This is a secondhand report. This is coming from the person who saw it. It's coming from her parents. Our daughter and her friend, a neighbor, were about 10 years old, and it was approximately 1988. The two of them were walking in the woods just off the trail near our home and saw a huge beige, blonde colored gorilla like creature. The minute they saw it, they were so scared they ran home. Our daughter said there was no way this was a person in a costume or another animal. It was a tall two-legged creature covered with beige or blonde color hair. The two girls reported the incident to me almost immediately after it happened. There was snow on the ground and they were wearing boots. I wanted them to show me the clearing where the creature was standing so I could look for footprints. They said they would not go back out there and that they were too frightened. On the way to tell me they saw another neighbor in her yard and told her, but she did not believe them. In the years since their sighting, I have not thought much about it. However, after reading websites on Bigfoot, I really feel that we had a Bigfoot living in the woods here. It's not a really large area, but hard to get around due to the marshy conditions around the small lakes. Now, I will tell you guys, this area that they saw this, because I've been in this area. This is really, really close to the Rice Creek lake system. Rice Creek, this area is like 5,500 acres of marshy lands, grasslands, woods. There's like 5 or 6 lakes that are all interconnected. So yeah, I mean it is. It's real close to home. And when I say it's close to home, it's like a 10-minute drive from where I live. Here's another one. This is I was just in this area today. February 2000. A small lake north of Twin Cities metro area. The lake contains a large wooded island. I know exactly this lake. You cannot get to this lake. This lake is owned by like a hunting club, and it's all fenced in, so you can't get to it. A large tract of marsh swamps nearby. There's a nature park located on the western shore of the lake. The nearest town is Centerville, which is literally right up the road from me. Around 2000, my wife Jean and myself went for a walk with our 2 labs. Something got our attention. To look across a small lake with an island on it. Crossing the frozen lake was a tall man-like person walking at a fast pace. His body, dark in color, almost black. Head was a lighter color brown with hair coming down to its shoulders. When we first seen him, he was about 350 yards away. He walked into the cattails about 150 to 200 yards away. At the time, we could only see his shoulders and head. 2 geese flew over, honking, and he turned his whole upper body to look at the geese. When he went into the wooded area, that's when we lost sight of him. I wanted to get closer, but my wife was so frightened. She went back to the truck. The really odd thing is that my dogs would not go with me. I'm an avid hunter and my dogs are with me always, but not now. I went to the area of cattails, but couldn't see over them. I'm 6 feet tall. The snow and ice were hard packed, and I couldn't see any prints. When Jean talks about it, it raises the hair on her neck. She didn't want me to report this for the safety of our visitor, but it's something that I'll never forget. There are other stories. They said they believe there's sightings by the St. Croix River. And this was reported, the sighting was about 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning. So, yeah, no, Cole, that's a true fact. That's a true fact. I mean, I just recently went down one area that I hadn't really driven down in a while, and now there's a turnabout or turnaround, a circle, and then there's um like an old cornfield that I'd seen like last year, the year before last, is now completely bulldozed, and now they're getting ready to start building houses. It's just stupid, just dumb. So let's see what else do we got here. All right. What's up, Untitled? Hello. Hello. All right, let's see here. So this one is in Cass County. This happened in 2023. Nearest town is Benna, the federal dam. Trail number 2127 and 2266. It goes, while my mother and I were grouse hunting up by Benna on 6 Mile Lake Road in the Mud Goose management area, we both witnessed a Bigfoot. We were traveling down trail 2127 from east to west, and my mom said, "Whoa, back up." Down trail 2266 near the bend, we saw a Bigfoot off the trail in the grassy ditch, and it slowly moved off the trail west to east. My mom asked if it felt like it was moving in super slow motion, and I concurred. The ditch at the site was 3 feet down, and the grass on the side of the trail was 3 feet tall, and the upper torso was 3 to 4 feet showing above the grass, leaving the Bigfoot to be about 8 to 10 feet tall. We drove to the spot and both noticed a strong sulfur rotting vegetation smell. When I got out of the car, I immediately felt all the hair stand up on my body. I checked for any signs of footprints on the road. I could not see any due to the gravel being very packed down. There was a small bit of gravel disturbed in one spot near the west side of the road. We later spotted a local conservation officer, aka game warden, DNR. This person was checking on hunters. When we mentioned what we had seen and where it was, he remarked, "That's where people have been reported seeing a Bigfoot." You guys, okay, I didn't misread that. He remarked, "That's where people have been reported seeing a Bigfoot." Not that there's been a report of seeing one, but people. So multiple people have reported seeing this Bigfoot. My mother and I have no doubt that we saw one. It was about 50 degrees, 9 a.m. in the morning, forest and lowland swamp. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, you guys, I'm going to do one more Bigfoot story, and then I think we may call it a day, guys. Okay, this is an old one. This is back Lake of the Woods County, summer of 76. Jerry, Gary, and Rick were camping in the Lake of the Woods area in the north part of Minnesota near the Canadian border. It in it is thick forest terrain where you could only go in to by foot or boat. They saw what looked like a 6.5 to 7 foot tall hairy figure standing by a tree looking at them. When they saw it, they tried to get a better look, but it ran off. Ran off. But what was the most okay? This person. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase here. But what was the most interesting part is that it ran on two legs like a man, not on all fours like an animal. When they got a little closer to the area, uh, there was a stench like rotting feet. They left and thought nothing and left and walked down the railroad tracks for about 100 feet. There was a swamp on both sides of the tracks. Then a rock the size of a football went zinging past them from the right. They thought someone else threw it, but they found no one behind them and around them continued to walk. Then they saw about 100 yards up and it ran across the tracks. And on the side of the tracks, they found a dry spot to cross and they tried to pursue it, but they left. They went to camp and told townspeople. Yeah, man, I feel bad for this person. Honestly, come on now, BFRO, do something when you guys. That was a tough one to read, you guys. It just sounded cool. So, pretty much paraphrasing, three buddies. They went camping up at the Lake of the Woods up in North Minnesota near the Canadian border. They saw something. It looked like it was 6, almost 7 feet tall. It was standing next to a tree. When they got closer, it took off. It ran off on 2 feet like a man, not 4 like an animal. When they got closer to the area, they smelled this stench like rotting feet. They left. They didn't think anything about it, so they decided they were going to walk down a railroad. They walked down about 100 feet. There were swamps on both sides when all of a sudden a rock got zinged in towards them. They looked around. They didn't see anything coming from behind them or whatever. When they turned back to start looking down the railroad track about 100 yards up in front of them, they saw this thing run across the tracks. They took off after it, and then they said, forget this. We're going to go back to camp. And then they told townsfolk when they got back in there that they saw a hairy person. So there you go. That's paraphrased. All right, you guys, that's the show for tonight. I'm going to say thank you so much. I appreciate you guys jumping in today. Thank you for all the support you showed the channel. You guys, if you haven't already done so, before you bounce out of here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. My current count, let's see here. Before I started, it was at 9,057. And right now we're sitting at 9,064 for the subscriber account. So, guys, I'm creeping up to 10,000. I am super, super excited about it. I didn't think I was going to get here, you guys, honestly. My biggest thing was this. Get 100 subscribers, get 1,000 subscribers, and just do our thing. And here we are, almost 10,000. So, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Spicy French Toast. Where do you subscribe? All you need to do is, I don't know what device you're looking on, but when this ends, just go to the channel, visit the channel, and you'll see a subscribe button. Just hit that subscribe button, and yeah, there you go. I just want to say again, thank you guys so much. I know you guys, who wants to listen to a song before we get out of here? If anybody wants, I do custom songs. Some are geared towards Bigfoot. Other ones are not. I've got one on here that to me, it's a knee slapper. It gets you pumped. It gets you going. It's Johnny Flanagan. I have River Bottom Rednecks. I got Two Good Old Boys. That's pretty much what I got. So that I've got loaded because I have so many vocalizations that I don't want to get rid of. I mean, I have great vocalizations, you guys. I got vocalizations like this. Who's ever heard a Yowie scream? Here you go. That was in March of 2019. Recorded roughly 2 a.m. in the morning in Blue Mountains in New South Wales, Australia. Let's hear it again. And then if you guys have never heard, here's some audio from Ron Moorhead, the Sierra Sounds. But this isn't really like the Sierra Sounds you hear. Ron describes these as two Bigfoot going at it, a male and a female. And then you got something coming out of Owl Moon Lab in Oregon. This is Daryl Adams recorded this when he lived on that property. Or this one. You guys, crazy, crazy things. Yeah, I know. I love audio. When someone sends me some audio, it just gets crazy. I love it. I love it. I love it. Man, I heard something almost exactly like that, Dano, this past summer. Awesome. I wonder what's the purpose of those vocalizations are. Spicy French toast, a lot of people say they use them for communication, use them for warnings. Who really knows? I wish I wish I was an expert on this, and so I can tell you, hey, I'm going to tell you when they use this type of tone, this is a way to communicate for this, but I don't know. That was you this in the morning when you stub your toe. Absolutely. It's kind of like what I heard about 150 yards away. You guys, I'll tell you a real quick, like my last encounter story. It was November 2025. I was in Michigan visiting my son and my granddaughter, and the whole few days prior to this, I was constantly just whooping and yelling and hollering and hitting trees just to see if I could get some type of a reply. And the reason I'm doing this is because the property my son lives on, he lives with his in-laws. Their property literally is like this with the Manistee National Forest in Michigan. Like their 36 acres of land, 36 or 38 acres of land literally butts up literally right up to the Manistee National Forest. And if you're not familiar with the Manistee National Forest, it is notorious for dogman encounters, Bigfoot sightings, and other stuff. So 2 or 3 days before I had this encounter, I'm out there hooping and hollering and yelling and screaming. And any dog in the area, this is a very rural area, any dog in the area, they started losing their mind. Absolutely started losing their mind. They'd hear me hoot and holler. They'd start barking and baying and everything. Well, this night we were just coming back. This is the night before we were coming back home to Minnesota. My daughter-in-law left something in the car, and we rented a minivan. So I go out to get it, and just as I was walking out, I just go whoop, just like that. Just did a whoop, just like that. Unlocked the van, got to the door, was getting ready to open it, and I hear three massive, clear. This is what I heard. That's what I heard. But it was louder and a way more crisp. That's not my recording. Someone sent me that recording. But immediately after I heard that, the hair on my arms, I just had this chill go down my spine. And I'm like, okay, man, I hear you. I hear you. You're cool. I got you. And I slowly backed up after I got what I needed, shut and locked the door, and just kind of backed up real close until I got to the sidewalk leading up to the front door. And then, as fast as this 340-pound body could move, I was leaving a smoke. I took off, got in the house. And then people who are new, if you guys are still here, I'll let you in. I'll do my second sighting. It's a real short one. I was stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base from 93 to 95. Before that, I was in Germany, 91 to 93. But before that, I was at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I was doing some training. That's part of my career field. And we were out doing a maneuver. We were out doing we were out for 13 days, and we were doing night patrols and things like that. This night, we were supposed to walk into an ambush. We knew it was a pre-designated area. Our job was to go there. Our instructor with us on our platoon was going to observe how we reacted to the ambush. Okay. Now, again, we're all carrying blanks. I'm the point man. I am about 20 meters ahead of the rest of my unit, my squad. And as I'm moving forward, now I'm walking on a gravel road that is probably 35, 40 feet wide. So two big deuce and a halves can move side by side, no problem. But I'm walking on the edge of the road. And there was a little bit of moonlight. It wasn't super bright, but there was enough for me to kind of see. And I saw something about 70 meters ahead of me on the left stand straight up behind this giant thing of bush. And I dropped down to one knee. I raised my rifle. Again, I have blanks. It's not going to do anything. But when I dropped down to one knee, this thing then dropped down behind this bush. So I'm sitting there, I'm straining my eyes, trying to see. At this time in my life, I had very good night vision. And I'm looking, and my instructor comes up. He's like, Hamilton, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I go, sir, Sergeant, there's something up there 70 meters to the left, And he has these old school night vision goggles, just all the green glow, not the thermals or anything like that. And he's looking, he's like, man, there ain't nothing over there. Get up and go. We got to go. So I get up and I hear him moving back. So as I started, I took about 20 steps. And in one bound, this thing jumped up over the bush, landed in the middle of this road, and then jumped again off to the side of the road I was on. Now, when I saw this thing jump, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. When it landed in the middle of the road, I immediately dropped down and rolled to my right to get into better cover and concealment. Anybody who's in the military, that's what you do. When you drop down in the prone, you roll to your side to one, if they're going to try to get a bead on you, you've now moved, so they have to try to traverse to find where you're at. But I try to roll into better cover. Excuse me, cover and concealment. So as I do this, I hear this thing just tearing through the woods. And where we were at, I believe, is the Pine Barrens. And so my instructor comes running up and he starts yelling, what are you doing? What are you doing? And as I start standing up, all of a sudden we hear automatic weapons fire. We hear the M60 shooting. We hear the M16s going off. He looks at me and we just take off running. He says, everybody, let's go. Let's go. We all take off running towards the gunfire. Now, this is where the ambush, and we weren't far away. We were maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 meters away. So not that far. We get there. There's flashlights getting turned on. You hear ceasefire, ceasefire. And my instructor comes running up by me. He goes out and starts talking with the other instructor that was with the group that were setting up the ambush. And they started yelling. They started yelling at each other and like, what are you doing? You sending somebody come run through here? You scared my airmen, blah, blah, blah. Something huge ran through our ambush. That's why they started shooting. And I'm standing there and I'm just kind of looking, and you hear people talking and things like that. And my instructor comes back at me and he looks at me. He's like, you didn't see nothing. You didn't hear nothing. He goes, I don't care what you think or what you say. You say anything, I will bounce you out of the military. You will be gone. And so that's that sighting. That was my second sighting. So, but you guys, we're at 2 hours. So again, thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and play a song before we get out of here. I hope you guys like it. I work on songs all the time. I have a bunch that I have not loaded up here yet. Some things I'm going to have to get rid of to load them up. If you guys have a birthday in the month of June or the month of July, send me an email, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. That's thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. And let me know when your birthday is, what kind of music you like, and kind of give me just a little bit of background of things that you like, things that you enjoy. That way I can then make you a custom birthday song and send it back to you. There's some people that have already received a custom birthday song from me. There's some people that are waiting for one, and I will get that done for you. And if you like any of the music that I play, you guys let me know, and I'll send it to you guys as well. If you guys are a subscriber to the channel, member of the channel, let me know. All right, you guys, because it's a fun song, it's an upbeat song, I'm going to go ahead and play Johnny Flanagan. All right. And you guys, I'm not going to, when this song ends, it's not the end, because I got to end on the high note.
Hey! Hey! Oh, Johnny Flanagan was a tough son of a bitch, standing 5'5", mean as a switch, hands of granite and a jaw like steel. Quick with a right hook and quicker to heel. Down on the docks of Boston town, he'd shoot his cigar while the rain came down, hauling crates from dawn till dark, crossing the sea in the rusted barges parked. After the whistle blew at the end of the day, Johnny and the boys all stumbled away, straight to O'Malley, smoke in the air, with whiskey on the breath and salt in the hair. Flanagan, raise your glass tonight. Boston Harbor's roaring under pale moonlight. Sing loud, fight proud, never backing down. King of the dockside rats in Boston town. Whoa, whoa, pint after pint he'd go. When would he stop? And nobody knows. With a wink of his eye and a thumb of his nose. Oh, out that old pub door Johnny goes. Hey. Murphy Finn and old Red Cane, all busted up from the freight yard crane, playing cards with the longshoremen, swearing they strike it rich someday again. A sailor said Johnny owed him pay. Johnny laughed to spit halfway. One chair flew and the lights went black. Next thing you knew, fists cracked like bats. Then up on the jukebox some rebel tune played, and half the damn barroom joined the fray, till Maggie O'Malley screamed out loud, you animals better settle down! Hey, Johnny Flanagan, raise your glass tonight. Boston Harbor's roaring under pale moonlight. Sing loud, fight proud, never backing down. King of the dockside rats in Boston town. Whoa, whoa, pint after pint he'd go. When would he stop? Hell, nobody knows. With a wink of his eye and a thumb of his nose. Oh, out that old pub door Johnny goes. Now the winters came hard and the years rolled by. Still Johnny walked with fire in his eyes, scar on his cheek and blood on his knuckles, laughing at pain while the whole world buckled. They say one night in the freezing rain, Johnny never made it home again. But down by the harbor late at night, you can still hear him singing when the fog rolls white. Hey, Johnny Flanagan, raise your glass tonight. The old docks echo underneath the city lights. Sing loud, stand tall, let the bastards drown. Goes to the waterfront, still stomping around. Whoa, pint after pint he
All right, guys, let's do one quick rundown here. Alphafoots, thank you for the $5. Colonel Greaseback, thank you for the 2. Deb, thank you for a gifted membership. Phyllis, thank you for a gifted membership. Josie, thank you for the $20 super chat. Buka, thank you for the $5 super chat. Deb, again, thank you for the 1 gifted membership. Phyllis, again, another 1 gifted membership. Alphafoots, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, you guys, for all of that. Not necessary, but greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. You guys, I'm not going to get out of here with doing this. Dear gracious and loving Father, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to spend this amount of time with some amazing people, whether they've jumped in and out of the chat or stayed. Lord, I'm so grateful for each and every single one of them and their families. Lord, I ask you to continue to bring blessings upon them and their families. Lord, we have people in our chat that have come and gone that are dealing with sicknesses and injuries. They're confused about things in life, Lord. They're looking for guidance. And I just ask you, 1, heal them. Heal them from the top of their head to the soles of their feet, from fingertip to fingertip, Lord. Make them whole again, Lord. Lord, I ask you ease their minds. Bring them clarity and bring them peace, Lord. Protect them, Lord. Give them courage and strength to face the things that they're unsure about. Lord, you lay obstacles before us every single day, seen and unseen. And thank you for allowing us to have the ability to see them and overcome them. Lord, I can't thank you enough for the love that you show us on a daily basis. Lord, thank you for my wife, my children, my grandchildren, the rest of my family and my friends. Lord, just be with everybody throughout their day as we worship you, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. You guys, thank you so much for your night. Thank you for 2 hours and 15 minutes of your time. You guys could have been doing something else on a Saturday, and you chose to hang out with me. Thank you so much. You guys, 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday morning. That's when you guys will see me next. Again, thank you so much, Nicole, for sending in that email so we can hear about your encounters. Crazy, crazy encounters, and it's fun. The way you described it, I knew exactly because I've driven those roads myself many, many times. Everybody, thank you so much. If you guys haven't done so already, check out Wade Fisher's channel. I think he's on TikTok as well. Check him out. Also, check out Mandy, Texas RN. Great content. Any other content creators we have in the chat, please future references, send me an email with your channels and I'll try to get those shouted out as well. But you guys, thank you so much for everything you guys do. Remember, everyone, a legend begins with a sighting, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye, guys.
And just like that, the night begins to close in. The fire burns a little lower. The woods grow quiet again. But if you've learned anything tonight, it's that silence doesn't mean you're alone. Somewhere out there, beyond the tree line, down that forgotten road, deep in the places maps don't like to go, something is still moving, still watching, still waiting. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending your night with me here on the Cryptid Podcast. Whether you joined us live, shared your thoughts in the chat, or you're catching this later, you're part of this journey now. And remember, these stories don't belong to fear. They belong to the witnesses, to the hunters who stopped hunting, to the hikers who never went back, to the people who looked into the dark and realized the dark looked back. If you've had an encounter with Bigfoot, Dogman, or something you can't explain, your story matters. And one day, it may be told right here on the Cryptid Podcast. Until next time, keep your eyes on the tree line, trust your instincts, and never ignore that feeling that tells you you're not alone. I'm Dano, and this is the Cryptid Podcast. Good night, everyone.